so many symptoms, but of course, but some of the biggest positive changes that happened when you started applying some of the protocols, when you started actually addressing what was at the root.
I think the biggest thing I felt was that my body was on at war with itself, which I couldn't understand initially. Like, I'm eating healthy food. Why does my body feel like it's attacking me? So the moment I started doing some things and applying, say, having the right supplements, removing a couple of foods, I felt like my body was just calmer. And because I understand that feeling until date, now I understand exactly what is. I'm feeling an inflammation coming up. I'm feeling that this is coming. I know it's inflamed. I know exactly how to bring down the inflammation. But when I started about 7 years ago, it was I didn't know it then. But when I started applying all of this, my first thing was that my body is just feeling like I'm not at war all the time. And it's giving me the strength and the space to fight whatever else I need to do. Before that I was always feeling like I want to do something, but my body is holding me back because it's fighting an invisible enemy at all times. So, for example, when the foods I took off, I immediately felt like the bloating disappeared, that constant cramping which I used to have even after eating, say, a chapati and bhindi. I'd be like, that's healthy food, it's green vegetables, it's fiber, what's the problem? But I'd feel cramps after that. So that went. The moment that happens, you feel better. I started sleeping better. I started overall. I felt like my memory issues were, not bothering me. I felt like that brain fog had disappeared. Things. So I started feeling overall better, and which gave me the strength to say, now what next? What next can I do?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned brain fog. I think that's something also. I mentioned many other symptoms, of course, but also brain fog. Only when the symptom goes away, and even chronic constipation or any other such symptom, you've been living with it all your life,
Yeah,
it becomes kind of normal.
normal.
Only when
Yeah.
it goes away is you realize that how bad things were in some ways. So yeah, I mean that brings me to the next question, which would be, so what I mean, and I'm sure you already answered part of that question, but what inspired you to say stay consistent with the lifestyle changes? Because you mentioned quite a few dietary changes. I'm sure you made, and I know you made a lot of other changes also in your mindset, in your life, apart from diet. So, what inspired you to stay consistent versus giving up hope when things got difficult? But I mean, I know for sure that nobody's journey is, simple and easy. So there would be parts which would be quite difficult, especially at the beginning. So, what inspired you to stay consistent and not give up hope?
I think the moment you start feeling better, you just want more of that for yourself. It's quite a drug. It's quite addictive. Feeling fine, feeling good, feeling resilient, feeling strong is quite an empowering feeling, and you feel like you want to you want to hold on to that. So the moment I started feeling better, I started mapping out things that would make me feel better and things that would make me feel worse, and I started venturing towards, not to say that I didn't have temptation, and not to say that I didn't sometimes feel like this is hard or something, but I feel like the key to being to something long term is being sustainable. Sustainable doesn't mean continuous. Sustainable just means being regular. And there are times when I've had lapses. There are times when I have eaten something else. It's not like I've not, definitely. But largely, overall, I found that the dietary changes I made, the changes in my mindset that I made, have helped me cope with so much that it's a great feeling to be in control. So today, like, I feel much more in control over, my issue. And autoimmune conditions, we all know, are not curable. So the best thing is to manage it. And just before we started this call, we were talking about stress, right? How stress has worsened something. So I know for me, I figured out that stress immediately worsens my conditions. So I feel really good now that I am actually so much in control, which I wasn't earlier, of what stresses me out. And I'm, of course, there are some stresses we just can't avoid. Having families, having, family members can be sick, some other problems at work. But I now, the things that I feel I can see are going to be stressful, I'm in a much better position today. With my work, I know that okay, next week is going to be stressful because I've traveled, so let me move this and this to this week, or I'll do it next week. I've become easy on myself. Earlier, I would just break down on myself if some task wasn't over. I would just come down harshly on myself. Today, I just say I tried the best, and I say that's all right. If I couldn't do it, I couldn't do it. So, it's. I feel like a lot more control, which is why I feel that I want to keep following this.
Yeah, you don't want to give up that this kind of thing, calm and peace we
Yeah,
underestimate in our
yeah,
lives.
Absolutely.
and less drama maybe as we grow older. But I think more importantly, what you mentioned was resiliency, because stress is going to be part of our lives. I mean, we can take out some of it.
Yeah.
Many of it is going to be not in our control. Challenges. So I think resiliency is what you're talking about, and of course physical resiliency, but I think also mental and emotional resiliency, and not being hard on yourself. You mentioned that. Actually, that is something that I find a lot of us don't really focus on. That compassion for ourselves when we are struggling, when we are suffering, and that it forms a big part of this program actually, because that's something that really helps us stay on track, because we will make mistakes, we will slip up, as you said, right? It's not going to be 100%, give you 100% of the time. That's not possible. So if someone is feeling feels completely overwhelmed and hopeless right now, what would you tell them about what their future holds for them?